Thank God this Halloween for Mike Flanagan, who has become the modern godfather for horror and returned with his final Netflix miniseries, The Fall of the House of Usher, which you've probably heard everyone talking about recently because it's everywhere. It's a modern twist, if you haven't heard, on Edgar Allan Poe's story, the same name, with heavy elements of his other work that I won't reveal for fear of spoiling because that obviously gets tied up in the plot. The first episode is almost like Succession meets Knives Out. You've got that kind of decadent but also menacing orchestral string soundtrack as a backdrop to set up this kind of uber excessive wealthy lifestyle that we're about to step into as we meet this eccentric but broken dynasty family composed of wildly different characters. Flanagan chooses to tackle the opioid crisis here as Big Pharma CEO Roderick Usher serves as our main character, and as we meet him, he's preparing to confess his sins to US Attorney Antoine Dupin, who has spent his career trying to hold Usher's Behemoth business Fortunato to account. I won't give away more plot details, but what's striking and a mark of how well made this show is that it pretty much in the first episode, I could give it away because it does give away its plot in the first episode. Just like this has happened, this is yeah, I won't say, but and it tells you everything that's going to happen from the outset, but the show still remains edge of your seat gripping as it goes on throughout. And after earning a stripes for telling more traditional horror stories like Haunting of Hill House really fucking well, like the stories themselves on paper are just kind of normal horror story. A haunted house, there you go. This is likely Flanagan's most ambitious project to date. He kind of genre hops here constantly. It's part murder drama. There's a farcical comedy element to it, but it always has that horror element looming and threatening to take over at any stage. But sometimes you just forget about it. The dialogue is at times Succession level snappy and hilarious with running jokes to catch you, like pathetic psychopath golden child Frederick's fear of elevators. At one stage it's mentioned, and then like a couple of episodes later it's called back to in just a most genius way, and actually laugh out loud funny, but it also isn't afraid to go left and be really poetic at times. Like it even weaves in some of Poe's actual work seamlessly, but also offered beautiful original monologue and dialogue. Like at one stage Roderick Usher gave a Logan Roy style American CEO reimagining it, a phrase, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade ideology. At this stage, Mike Flanagan's got his tropes that we all know and love, like you need to watch all of the screen at all times, with shocks constantly lurking in the background, but it never kind of goes into jump scare mode either, like traditional horrors, which is kind of why we love him, because again, he's just happy to kind of throw something spooky in the background, and it may never get referred to, but you'll just notice it there and it'll haunt your dreams for the rest of the day. But the genre bending kind of only enhances the dread because the story itself is so layered and meaty throughout. The performances are so dialed up and bought in that you'll often just get lost in whatever story they're telling you before Flanagan just pulls you back suddenly and reminds you that this is very much a horror story. Speaking of the performances, journeyman Bruce Greenwood has the performance of a lifetime here and is the unquestioned star of a really stellar cast as Roderick. He has a superstar aura and gravitas that frankly belies a CV that is relatively modest compared to the talent that he displayed in this. With his instantly iconic gravelly voice, he plays Roderick as both a kind of Logan Roy kind of monster, but also at the same time he plays him as frail and a remorseful old man filled with regret, often within the same beats. He is fantastic here, and the depth that they have, again, it's something that you don't expect from horror, because we've kind of gotten a lot of, and I've spoken about this even with recent releases like Saw X and The Exorcist Believer, we're used to kind of accepting less for horror now, and Flanagan just gives you so much more of it. It is prestige TV here, in a way that we just didn't think we could get with that genre. And so much of the horror itself rests on Carla Gugino's tightrope performance as mysterious figure Verna. If she came across as any stage as like campy or over the top or kind of like, and I've spoken about this even with the likes of The Exorcist, you get kind of horror villains like just overacting and just trying to be really spooky because that's what the script demands. She doesn't. She play like, and if she did do that, it would not work. The whole thing would fall apart and everything that Flanagan's built. Instead, she really just commits to this, and she has an intensity that shines through and pulls all this effort together. And again, it just, again, I feel that Bruce Greenwood is the MVP of this show, but if Carla doesn't get that right, it doesn't work. Simple as. And they're just the tip of the iceberg for a phenomenal cast throughout, filled with familiar faces. If you've seen Flanagan's other works, like you've got Henry Thomas, Samantha Sloyan, and Robert Longstreet in this, people that names you mightn't recognize, but faces you will if you're familiar with his previous hits. He's become almost like a Tarantino or a Scorsese type figure in that he works regularly with the same cast and recast them. Even American Horror Story will do something similar and kind of different stories. They just cast the same people so that there's a branding element to it, and it really works because those casts obviously love working for him and they love his projects and they really buy in, and he gets the most out of them. Each of the 8 episodes, which are all around an hour in length, tell a unique chapter of the story. And again, I can't kind of reveal more because that kind of gives away the plot itself, but it feels like its own mini movie. It's almost like, I won't say it's like if you've seen the After Party on Apple TV, which again, every episode is a different genre of television. That's not the case, but it just, every episode feels like a character study and it all wraps up into this bigger plot. So again, like it's the type of show that's just really difficult because of that to not submit to Netflix's continue watching prompt at the end, because again, you're just like, no, I need to know more. I need to keep going. And again, you're just hearing of people binging it in 1 or 2 goes. That was my experience. I literally watched the last 4 episodes together, watch it in the dark. It's fantastic. You stop caring if you need to go to bed, but also if you did try to go to bed because of it, you probably wouldn't be able to sleep. It is another triumph for Flanagan, who now seems set to move on to movies and more long-term projects. He owns the rights to Stephen King's The Dark Tower series, for example, and I'm sure he's going to do an amazing job with that. He's got endorsed by King for a lot of his work too. His name is now synonymous with quality for a reason. He literally hasn't missed yet, and with any of these projects, and you need to make it your business to see both this and anything he has his name attached to going forward. That's The Fall of the House of Usher. It's all available as per usual on Netflix now for you to binge. Go watch it, enjoy, and happy Halloween. Thank you, Mike Flanagan.